Good evening and welcome to the February 21st Committee of the Whole meeting of Common Council. This is our first study session whereby Council will be setting the agenda for the upcoming month. We will also, unique to this meeting, be discussing possible future agenda items that we wish to either tackle in the form of presentations in our special topic sessions or items we want to tee up as priorities for our legislative retreat. Again, calling the meeting to order. I will note all of council is here with the exceptions of Alderperson Shapiro, who is excused. Alderperson Kumar is on her way, and Alderperson St. Perez is joining us remotely with a qualifying condition per our telecommunications participation local law. We have a member of the public here, so I will read the emergency evacuation notice. In case of an emergency evacuation, we are to take one of two exits, point out both exits of the room, boom, done. And please wait at the trees on the same side of the street on South Cayuga and Green. We do not cross Green Street unless absolutely necessary. Those with restricted mobility, in the event of emergencies, it is best for you to move to one of the stairwells and first responders will arrive to aid you. In the event of other emergencies, you will be notified at that time. We want everyone to be aware of their surroundings and offer help when it is not to your own detriment, as you are your own best advocate. All right. With that, we will turn to our first and only substantive item that it was submitted by staff this month. Remember, we are not going to have a detailed conversation about the merits of this item. We are going to determine whether we need to have a substantive conversation and refer this to a study session, to a special topics working group, or if we're going to refer it to the next meeting of council. So with that, if I could get someone to move the amendment to personnel roster information systems desktop specialist. And please, you're welcome to summarize rather than read in verbatim. Alderperson Haynes Sharp.
Amendment to personnel roster information systems desktop specialist. Whereas, I'm just going to read it. Okay, whereas the Department of Public Information and Technology has conducted a staffing needs assessment and is in the process of updating and upgrading several key staff positions, and whereas the department has identified the need to create a position with a skill set to provide the level of knowledge, skills, and experience needed to manage the city's technology, inventory, and assets, and whereas the Ithaca Civil Service Commission established the classification of information systems endpoint analysts at their February 2024 meeting. And whereas this position is needed to provide additional support to the information managers and the information systems endpoint analyst position, now therefore it be resolved that the personnel roster of the Department of Public Information and Technology be amended as follows. Add one information systems desktop specialist. And be it further resolved that the position of information systems desktop specialist shall be assigned to the confidential employees compensation plan at salary grade 6. And be it further resolved that for the sole purpose of determining days worked reportable to the New York State and local employees retirement system, the standard workday for this position shall be established at 8 hours per day, 40 hours per week, and be it further resolved that the funding for this change shall be derived from existing funds within the approved departmental budget. I so move.
Thank you very much. Is there a second? Seconded by Alderperson Keel.
Mayor, do you want me? Can I just ask a couple clarifications?
Please, please.
So what I thought we communicated to staff was that this would be the meeting where if there was any discussion needed, that staff would come to this meeting and answer any questions. Because another option that council could do tonight is to vote to just put this on the consent agenda at the voting meeting. Did I have that wrong?
Nope. Thank you for clarifying. That is what I meant. So this is a question before council of, is this a procedural item that is ready to go to consent agenda, or will there need to be a substantive discussion about that? And yes, if I guess you can answer.
I'm here because Alan's on vacation, right? So if anybody has, essentially, this position was approved as part of last year's budget. This is another one of those carryover things from things happen at the end of a previous year, and then There is a requirement that when something is added to the roster to be funded, it has to be given what the work week is, and there's some very specific language that is required by New York State for retirement purposes and others. So this is essentially you're simply allowing the position that was funded in last year's budget to be the hours to be determined and for it to be officially put on the roster. That's what this is.
Thank you. Alderperson Fabrizio?
Yeah, just point of clarification. Can you give us an idea of like how many people, like who do we have watching over? What is the department like? I mean, how many people do we have doing this sort of thing? I'm not saying it's too many. I'm just,
Right, I can resend the org chart that
Oh,
is-
okay, I
was
have it
part
already.
of the presentation that we gave a couple months ago, but there's been some moving around of positions in IT, and this is an extra person to do, I'm going to say medium level work in terms of helping people with printers and, kind of day-to-day help desk tech type stuff. So there's not a position like this right now. They kind of share some of those responsibilities with other people that are in
and just
IT.
overall, do you know off the top of your head, like how many IT people we have?
Right now, 3, but it's really only a half
Oh, okay.
person because Alan is also functioning in the
Right.
interim role of city clerk.
That would be great if you could send the updated org sheet. That'd be
It's
great.
It's in the shared space where all the council resources are.
Barring any further questions, I'll entertain a motion to move this on to consent agenda for the March meeting. Oh, Alderperson Brown.
I believe we discussed this last term. This has been approved already. Oh, it's on?
That's right, Alderperson Brown. This is reflected in the 2024 operating budget.
Yeah,
And as the city manager said, this is just a procedural next step for onboarding that position.
okay.
It would actually, for everyone's edification, especially the new members, this is not dissimilar to the resolution that council members have to certify if they opt into the state retirement pension system, which also specifies a standard workday and records our approximate hours. So Alderperson Keel?
I move the previous motion.
Is there a second? Seconded by Alderperson Letterman. All those in favor of moving this on to consent agenda? And that carries 10-0 with Alderperson Shapiro absent. Thank you, council. Next, a legacy item. We, of course, have changed our committee structures. However, the last time City Administration Committee met was in November of last year. I just need someone to move the minutes as have been recorded. Again, I know it might feel odd for some people to vote when they were not either on the committee or members of the committee, but nevertheless, we can't abstain. So unless you think there's a material incorrect statement in the minutes, please do vote. Alderperson Haynes Sharp. Moving the minutes, thank you. Is there a second? Second by Alderperson Kumar. Any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor? That carries 10-0. Thank you, council. All right. So things are set for the next agenda. Now we're going to take a little bit of time to talk about again, as I mentioned earlier, the possible future agenda items. Remember, this is not a time to substantively get into the specifics of what that debate might be, but it's more of a temperature check from council. Hey, do we want to bring this up at an upcoming meeting? Or is this something we already know we want to discuss in great detail at the legislative retreat? Just to preface the conversation really quick, I have 2 updates to share on this. One is that there'll be a resolution brought forward at the March meeting establishing what we're calling the Executive Personnel Committee. As council probably knows, or certainly some members of council know, the city manager's contract requires that there be a performance evaluation that is done. For scheduling purposes, that is a body that is being proposed to be made up of the mayor, the acting mayor, and the alternate acting mayor. It is an advisory body. It will have no binding authority. It is just to conduct the process of performance evaluation and then report back to council on that periodically in executive session. Again, not at this time here for substantive conversation, but I am just putting this on folks' radar that this will be brought forward. We are required, turn to the city attorney, I think we have to have our first performance, you can let me know, I don't remember.
Yeah, our council is supposed to give this city manager her first interim performance evaluation in March.
Right,
So we'd like to get this up and running on the first March meeting.
thank you. And then second thing, just to share with council, there is tentatively scheduled a presentation from IPD Chief Kelly and our public safety consultant Kathy Zoner on the updates on some of the reimagining work. We thought that with council's consent, at the March 6th meeting, that might be a good time to bring that update before council. Do I have unanimous consent on those two? Well, if someone can just say objection if they object to the unanimous consent. Please, yeah. Mhm. Staff, I'm sorry, could you? Great question. I think partly that's going to be, so some of these are going to be brought forward with the suggestion of staff as to where they should go. There's no voting item anticipated coming out of that update. I'll turn to the city manager, but
I had asked, I think, the chief and Kathy to do it at the work session.
Oh,
meeting,
okay.
Because that's what I thought we were doing at
just
the
my
work session
misunderstanding then.
meeting.
Thank you for that correction.
But they're flexible, so what'll happen is the stuff that comes in from staff and the stuff that comes in from council, there's an agenda planning meeting
Right.
that will occur internally, and then we'll make recommendations for what agenda items should go to which meeting. This is new for all of us,
Right.
so we're gonna work.
Thank you for that clarification. So yes, I'm
I
sorry.
think the
the-
most helpful document would be the one that I copied you all on that I sent to staff that walks through sort of the cadence of how things will work in terms of meetings, at least from the staff side. And you can mirror that on the council side, and that would make sense to me.
Please,
So is the chief coming at
the 13th.
the 13th?
I just looked at my calendar and saw that it wasn't next week, and so immediately just mentally populated the next meeting. But, right, we're not meeting next week, so it would be the 2 meetings from now. The 13th, March 13th. No, right, because we're not meeting next week, so it's, right. 2 meetings from now, yep. No, that's exactly what I just did, right? Alderperson Brown? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this, I'm in agreement with Q. Are they coming to do a presentation? This is not a voting, nothing to vote on. So if they're doing a presentation, why are they coming to the March 6th meeting?
They're not,
Why-
I was just corrected.
Oh,
I said the
okay.
wrong day.
Okay.
Alderperson Matos.
Can we have like questions around
Of course.
reimagining prepared for that?
Of course. Alderperson Fabrizio.
Are you anticipating that for the special topics meetings, that there might be more than one that comes up that we can get onto an agenda?
Yes, I think, yes. I won't share my own opinion on this at the moment, but I will say I would urge council to think about the balance of keeping these meetings somewhat speedy and also covering the appropriate number of topics. And my personal advice perhaps would be for us to start with not one, but fewer topics and then scale up if we are being judicious with our time. But if they really, to Alderperson Brown's comment last week, we do want to make sure that there's opportunity for robust conversation. And if there are 6 items of presentations on the agenda, that might not be possible
Thanks. And could you clarify, how do we get things onto the agenda exactly
this meeting.
at this meeting?
So so that we're about to open it up to members. I know Alderperson Kumar, for example, has something that they want to talk about. If one is bringing up a concept and there feels like general agreement that council should look into this, at this time. We will then figure out where to schedule it on our upcoming meetings. But we are putting this in place so that there can be some, not majority, but certainly like healthy plurality of interest in a topic to keep our meetings focused on the most important matters before the city. Alderperson Kumar, would you like to?
Yes, so I wanted to bring up the discussion item of sidewalk, snow and ice maintenance. It seems to me right now that a lot of properties are non-compliant with this, especially in Ward 4. I think that in College Town, I've been witnessing a huge public safety and accessibility issue. It's absolutely untenable in College Town. I live on Buffalo Street, and to get from Eddy to my apartment, which is like 3 houses down, I have to sit down and slide. Not the only one, who's been having to, that's the only way to safely get down the hill without risk of injury. And these are young, able-bodied people, so it's a huge accessibility issue. On top of that, like up on Eddy Street and College Avenue, sometimes there's reckless driving at night, college students, and it's extremely slippery and very steep. Somebody could slip on Eddy Street and fall, right down that little like grass part that's like very, very steep. I just think it's a nightmare waiting to happen. So I've been feeling a lot of urgency. Actually, just earlier, last week, I had a friend of mine who fell and broke her wrist right up on Dryden. So I understand that this is a problem all over the city, but it's very urgent, I feel, in College Town, and it's a small area. It's more manageable. I actually, because, I wasn't really sure how to move forward with this, and because it's such an urgent problem, earlier this week, I bought some pet-friendly, environmentally friendly ice melt and took it all around Ward 4. And I was able to salt all of the problem areas in Ward 4. That includes all of the stairs that are leading up to the sidewalks, and Catherine Street, all of like the offshoots. And it took me less than 2 hours, like me alone, walking my dog. So I do think that starting with something more manageable like this could maybe help us build more infrastructure to expand snow and ice maintenance to the rest of the city. I guess my question is there like willingness to look at different ways to address this? I would love to, maybe ask staff for some guidance on this. How much should the city be shouldering? I think, of course I have to bring up Cornell University. I think that there's room here to maybe push Cornell to at least take care of, the worst parts of College Town, with the joint funding and the, hopefully upcoming meetings of the Cornell City Working Group. Additionally, I know that, there's been a lot of conversation about EPMO enforcement, whether this would fall under that. Is there an avenue through altering the city code? Is there any way we can reallocate resources to make it easier for the DPW? I know that a while ago there was some sort of an effort to start a shovel brigade, but we couldn't find a group that would partner with us. But maybe if we had a little bit more attention on it, we'd be able to get something like that going. Obviously, it's pretty simple, even for just a private citizen to volunteer their time and take care of.
Right, so the question before us is whether we as a body have a plurality of folks who want to explore requesting a future presentation on this topic. Alderperson Letterman. I'm sorry, actually Alderperson Keel was first. Alderperson Letterman.
Yeah, I would just like to echo Representative Kumar's concerns. I absolutely biffed it in the Commons a couple of days ago and am very sore because of kind of this poor ice maintenance situation. And I think that there are a lot of viable options before us, and whether that's community engaged or city burdened or otherwise, I think it's an important thing for us to look into. I sat down with Snowco last Friday and spoke to them about their concerns and kind of what they've done for a while. And one of the things I talked to them about, and I would also be happy to do for council, is put together a legislative history of how other cities around New York State, as well as the country, kind of handle snow and ice maintenance in similar environments. And so if this is something that we want to move forward with, I'm happy to do that too.
Thank you. Before recognizing Alderperson Letterman, I will just let for the record recognize that we've been joined by Alderperson Shapiro. Welcome. Alderperson Letterman and then Alderperson Fabrizio.
I know I didn't clarify for the record what EPMO stands for. It's Exterior Property Maintenance Ordinance.
Thank you.
I'm certainly supportive of this. I guess, and a presentation would be very helpful. I was curious who we imagine the presentation would be from. Would it be from DPW staff or sort of maybe the city attorney on sort of any regulatory I'm just curious as to who would be presenting.
Could we potentially turn to Deb with this question?
I think, yes, I think we should formulate all these requests, though, at this point, to who do we believe is the prospective implementer. Turn to Deb.
So I can, what I think would be the most helpful, because everything that you just mentioned you wanted to do, we've already actually done. So I think what would be great is if you used this meeting to do really high level, quick, rapid fire topics. And then that would help get us set for the retreat to be able to prioritize which one of those ones you think are more or less important. The internal, like we're calling it the sorting hat meeting internally for fun. That meeting, we'll be able to then start mapping out which items will be able to go to which agenda, which ones need more robust conversation. And then what we can do is essentially, like for this one, everything that you just asked for, we have like ready-made information that we could give you. So that would be an easy one for us to do sooner rather than later. And some of it, if it's a new topic, we might need to have more research, or maybe the mayor would decide that a working group is a better way to approach that topic. So for tonight, my recommendation would be that you spend just quick bursts of, these are all of my topics. And if you want to give a little backstory, that's great. But then staff can go away and decide which way it should go.
Thank you. It sounds like there's consensus that we want to look into this. So if the hands I saw were on this topic, I will let the record yes.
I know you had brought something forward last time talking about curb. Is it similar?
The curb cuts.
The curb? you
That
know,
is intimately related to this issue. Exactly. Thank you, Alderperson Brown. But Alderperson Fabrizio and Alderperson Haynes Sharp, if your comments were about this issue, we could just let the record reflect that you were supportive of it, and Alderperson Keel.
Yeah, I was just, and please let me know if this is out of order. I would like to motion to suspend the rules and allow straw polling for this meeting. Is that something that we can do? I know it's not technically allowed, but if we suspend the rules to allow it for this meeting,
You can make that motion. I do think that if we're suspending the rules, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm fairly certain that that means we have to require a majority for these decisions as opposed to a healthy plurality. Because suspending the rules just would reduce us to customary law around public meetings.
I think it's just suspending the rules on that specific issue. If my
But nevertheless, would still require a majority.
Yeah, I mean, if we were going to vote on the motion, if that makes sense.
Correct.
Yeah. So I make a motion that we suspend the rules to allow straw poll voting for this meeting yeah, that's my motion.
Seconded by Alderperson Haynes Sharp. Seconded by Alderperson Kumar. Alderperson Haynes Sharp.
Can you explain your rationale for suggesting that?
Yeah, absolutely. I just think it would make us a little bit more efficient. There's no binding effect of straw polling, but it would allow for us to take votes that are non-binding, and so we can see where people actually stand versus just kind of feeling people out in comments. I just think it would be a little bit more efficient.
On this point, Alderperson Kumar.
I also think, a good amount of groupthink could happen here. If all of us, it's difficult, I think, just to judge off of like vibes, whether or not there's like a plurality consensus. And sometimes it's easier to go along with what's being said. I think having individual like votes on this, especially because they're non-binding, would not only be efficient, but probably also help us make more truthful democratic decisions.
Alderperson Nguyen. Okay. So the motion is a motion to suspend the rules. All those in favor? All those opposed? I'm sorry. Alderperson St. Perez, how did you vote?
I mean, I'm not opposed to it, I guess.
All right,
In
so
favor.
all those in favor of suspending the rules, hands up and keep them up. Sorry, these are all for suspending the rules. Okay, so that's 3. Okay, those opposed? And that carries 9-2.
Can we all just jump in now? Is it a free for all?
No,
Yeah, I think this is highly inadvisable, actually.
All right.
I
just-
Well,
What-
now we have no rules.
point of clarification, the rules are only suspended to allow straw poll voting, because
Yes, I
that's
know.
not allowed. So, yeah.
Yes. So who's in favor of doing this, bringing this as a future topic before council? This being the snow and ice removal. That we're back to that. Yes. Okay, unanimous. Thank you. Further items, and again, I would really urge, this is supposed to be a list generating process, not individual discussion on each item. Alderperson Letterman, Alderperson Brown, Alderperson Matos.
I would ask that at the time that it is perhaps feasible for city staff, that we have a presentation from a staff member in the planning department on any progress or sort of their understanding of how the city might conduct a vacancy study. I don't, there's no particular timeline with that. That could be in April or it could be afterwards, but just as something when they're ready with some sort of results of their internal sort of work, that they would sort of make a presentation on what their findings were.
Any questions on this? Otherwise, we'll go.
Or both?
Forgive me. With the related to the Emergency Tenant Protection Act, my understanding, city manager, is that the planning department's conducting an internal review of what options, if we were to ever explore the ETPA, which I imagine we would discuss at our retreat upcoming next month, that there would have to be a study of the vacancies within the city, and that the planning department's looking into how to best conduct that.
This is already on the planning department's work plan for this year. So I don't think you need to add it to this list, because that would naturally come back to council when the work was completed by staff already.
That is very helpful to know. Thank you, city manager.
Alderperson Brown.
Okay, I don't know if I'm right. Are we just saying things that we'd like to see
Correct.
on, yeah. Okay, so I've been doing a lot of stuff outside with looking at a lot of so when I was on council before and I was asking about private owned property, I was told if it's not city owned, that's really not it's not much we can do about it, right? However, as knowing my constituents live in a lot of these properties that are having a lot of incidents, and I'd like to know what is our responsibility of making sure that our constituents are safe in these different properties that have been gotten tax abatements, have been whatever. What can we do? Art House has had shootings, has had quite a few different issues. I'm talking about stuff in West Village with Chestnut, many of the different properties that are owned by private landlords or private owners. What is our responsibility as ward people for our wards? What are our responsibilities of making sure that they're safe? Because that is a safety issue.
So I will turn to the city attorney, but I'll give him a moment to prepare being called on cold and just say, I think one of the most, at least in my experience, this is just personal experience, one of the most valuable things that one can do is be an information conduit to who the right people in city government are to help address an issue, right? If it's a building code issue, you and I might not have I certainly don't have the technical expertise to address that, but
Right.
we can help triage folks into understanding where to access city services. Where it comes to the broader, I guess, charter scope of responsibility, I'll turn to the city attorney.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to kind of give a broad overview, and I'm going to give you my favorite answer, which is it depends, right? There are, a number of situations that come up that could impact someone's safety. There's criminal violations, which the city can enforce with its police force. There's, health and safety kind of code regulation stuff, which we typically enforce through the building division. And then there's issues related to, kind of the way that people day to day manage their private properties, which if it's not a violation of the criminal, if it's not a criminal violation, it's not a code violation, we don't have much ability to get involved in that.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, thank you. I hear what you're saying. Also, there are issues where people who are handicapped, their buzzers are not working.
Mhm.
That's ADA all around, but I just want to know, what more can I do? Thank you, but I hear you.
Yeah.
Sound like we can't do much.
Yeah, well, it really depends on what the specific situation is, and I know people hate that answer, but it's true here.
Thank you.
Person Matos was next.
Can I also comment to what something that Miss Phoebe just said regarding? Okay, I was just wondering if this is a topic we can explore further at our retreat, possibly. Do we need like a vote or
The topic being
being like the negligent or like the
Yeah.
improper upkeep?
yes, 100%.
Yeah, public
So
safety.
yes, I think again, I would urge council to think about this as the high level policy objectives we want to achieve, like affordability, quality of living for our residents, rather than
Specific.
specific. Because again, to my point, like the building code folks know building code way better than I do.
Yeah.
But I think yes, that high level piece is a very germane topic for the retreat, city manager.
I just want to clarify to make sure everyone understands expectations for the retreat. The retreat, no staff is planning on being at the retreat. This is for you for planning purposes and priority setting. So what would be helpful is when we populate this list, then I'll be able to use this list and integrate it into some of the work that we'll be doing in order to help you all set your legislative priorities. But it won't be possible to like do deep dives into the content of the topic. But what it will help us do is decide, okay, this is super important. It emerged as a top priority of council. So that gives good direction to me so that then I can say, all right, staff, council identified these as the top 3 things they wanted the city to address this year. And then we'll know which ones we have to tackle first and how much work we have to do. So just to make sure everybody was clear that staff are not going to be at the retreat, that's really a planning purpose. Okay, great.
Alderperson Matos.
Okay. And now I'm sure it's no surprise that I would like to just create space for the conversation around the ceasefire resolution. I would hope at the March 6th meeting, but honestly, I would love to have this conversation no later than our retreat.
Alderperson Keel.
Yeah, so I'll just start by saying that I apologize. Chris, thank you for your email. If I did things out of order in terms of, in terms of meetings, my understanding that these meetings were for topics to see if.
I'm so sorry. Is this on Alderperson Matos'
No,
point?
no.
Okay, then can I ask you to hold that? Because I did have
Absolutely.
Alderperson Fabrizio ahead of you. But if there are comments on Alderperson Matos' suggestion. Alderperson Fabrizio. Oh, Alderperson Shapiro.
I've been waiting for this conversation to get brought here and feel very strongly as a elected official that this is a waste of space when there's so many important things that we're hearing about in our community, including some topics that I'm sure we'll continue to talk about tonight. I think the resolution that Ms. Matos is bringing up is as a starting point to have this discussion was so offensive and so divisive as a Jewish person in America, as a Jewish person who has wouldn't be here but for the fact that my grandfather survived the Holocaust, wouldn't be here in America if he weren't so close to Germany, because they didn't give a shit that he was a Holocaust survivor, pardon me. because they accepted Nazis into America to help us advance science and things like that. They cared that my grandfather wasn't too close to Germany, because then he might have been a communist. But for the first time in like thousands of years, except for brief periods of time, Jews found safety in America, and Jews found safety in Israel, in a place that many people would feel like they're indigenous to. And I thought that it's obvious that we're going to have a conversation about this that happened at Tompkins County recently. And though they didn't vote on something that, or they didn't approve something, they at least passed through something as a starting point. I don't know if it was their starting point, but it got to be their end point, where it was at least something that was not divisive. And I thought what you sent around was completely offensive. I thought it was anti-Semitic. And I'm disappointed that that would be the starting point for where we would have this conversation.
I will remind council, thank you, Alderperson Shapiro, please, we are talking about whether this item should be brought forward for discussion. I appreciate your remarks, thank you. I appreciate your remarks as well, thank you. I think we should remember, this is a question of, are we going to be debating these issues, not will we be debating them tonight? Alderperson St. Perez.
So, as was noted, the county has already discussed this issue, and Tompkins County has a Division of Human Rights. I just want to, I want to be careful about not treading on the county's toes here. I don't want it to come across as though we are pushing something just because we disagree, perhaps, with what the county's decision was. We're trying to work together. We're trying to be cooperative, and we live in a balance with other organizations and municipalities where we share different powers.
Alderperson St. Perez, thank you for your remarks. I apologize, but again, we need to keep within the bounds of what this purpose of discussion is this evening, which is not to debate the merits, but to debate whether we are going to actually entertain this as a topic.
Mayor Cantelmo?
I'm listening.
My point was to, I believe we should not entertain it as a topic because of the division of powers between us and the county.
Thank you.
Would you be able to briefly go into a little bit more detail about what is germane or not? I'm just a little bit confused.
So we are talking about things that council has a broad support for bringing up as future items to discuss. We cannot have, as a matter of public business, open and agenda-less conversations about every possible item that might be brought before the city. And so I will, at this time, uniformly be looking for comments in favor or against. And as Alderperson Keel has suspended the rules with respect to straw polling, if someone wants to call for a straw poll, they're more than welcome to. But I will not be entertaining debate around an issue that council has not yet determined it will debate here or any topic this evening. Alderperson Letterman.
I wanted to say that, as I mentioned, in an email earlier, I'm opposed to bringing this up for consideration. I'm not going to speak to the merits of it, which I've shared with some of you privately, but I believe bringing this up necessitates a conversation of the city's view on issues of national foreign policy, and I don't believe that's a sort of good use of our time. And I think if my colleagues have particularly strong views on this issue, I would suggest them to sort of sign letters or speak out in other ways. But I don't believe it's sort of our place to sort of delve into our positions on American foreign policy.
Alderperson Nguyen.
Yeah, I used to feel the same way. And shortly after I got elected, Trump was elected, and my position on that switched. And it was less to me about having a material impact on foreign policy or national or even state level things at times, but showing the community that we have their backs. At the time, that was about immigration, or it was about union rights, and in this case, going back to the county, there's strong evidence that there's enormous interest in the community, and so when things make it to our level, I think it's appropriate to discuss.
Does anyone who has not spoken want to speak? You haven't spoken on this issue. Alderperson Keel, and then
Yeah, I would just support a discussion around a ceasefire resolution in addition to what my colleague Wynn said. However, I would concur that I think it should be a collaborative conversation starting from ground zero and not starting from a place that other municipalities have taken.
Alderperson Brown.
Uh, I, I, I support this I support that we have a discussion around this resolution, ceasefire. I don't think it should be based on what the county decision was. I think it's totally different. As someone who's been oppressed, I really feel it's important that we show humanity for people around the world.
Alderperson Matos.
Yeah, and all I'm saying is I'm not asking for support on the resolution. I'm just asking for there to be space and a conversation that we can further discuss our feelings and for the resolution. That's it. I'm just asking for time and a conversation. And that's what I'm asking you guys to support tonight so that we can put it on the agenda.
Alderperson Kumar.
I have a brief question. And coming off of this is not the time, but why Minneapolis specifically? Was there any?
That's
Got it.
territory.
Sorry about that.
Further discussion. Alderperson Keel.
I move for a straw poll.
Is there a second? Second by Alderperson Nguyen. Those in favor of what is your
Move for a straw poll to discuss at a later date.
discuss it later? Okay. No.
Yeah, no.
I'm not trying to speak for you. That's just not what you said.
Move for I'm gonna cede my time to Representative Matos for her to make a motion which she would like for this to be discussed at.
I would like to motion it to move it to the agenda for the March 6th meeting. Or yeah.
Is there a second? Second by Alderperson Nguyen. Discussion. I just, for the record, don't believe that there is ample time to Alderperson Keel's point. Write something from the ground up in a 2-week time. I would be supportive of working on this with folks. I believe last week Alderperson Brown told me that she was working on a letter on this very issue.
We have a rough
I
draft.
haven't yielded. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
To the point of Alderperson Keel, if we're going to do something, it's going to be collaborative in the same way that I think the county's effort was. And I do not believe with 0 more working meetings until the March 6th meeting that is a ample amount of time. And I would urge the members who moved this to reflect on that timeline. Alderperson Shapiro.
I'm just looking for clarity. What's being discussed or what's the motion? Is it to discuss this?
The motion is to discuss this topic at the March 6th meeting.
With the foundation as the document that Kayla sent around earlier today?
Yeah, and like I said, right now I'm just asking to open up the room for conversation, and we can work off the draft and make our edits and talk about those edits at a later meeting. That's all I'm asking for tonight is support to have a conversation. I'm not asking you guys to commit to supporting the resolution or anything like that. I'm just asking for support of a conversation, which I'm sure you guys would all want and expect the same respect from me. That's all I'm asking. You guys might not be hearing from your constituents, but I've been hearing from many of my constituents. I've had community members reached out. I've been in community groups I've been talking to the community, and this is something that the Ithaca community wants. The community was actually very disappointed in our county legislature, so I don't even think it's fair for us to bring up the way that the county legislature voted for this. Once again, I'm just asking for support on the conversation.
Alderperson Haynes Sharp. I thought you had your hand up. I apologize. Alderperson Brown.
I just was saying at this, I just want clarification. At this meeting, when in this discussion, could we talk about it being a resolution or a letter? Is that still on the table? I want to see resolution. However, letter is still, whatever.
Yes, ma'am. Nothing prohibits members of council from drafting and circulating letters outside of our regular meetings. It has long been the practice, but council does not. And I would oppose efforts to insert letters into our legislative process because it would slow them down, especially when they're timely. So to your question, Alderperson Brown, this would not have any impact on the viability or feasibility of a letter. Alderperson Shapiro, then Alderperson Nguyen.
I'm still not clear on the motion because if you're asking for what you're saying today, which is a motion to discuss an issue that a lot of constituents are bringing up to you, then that's very different than the email you sent around where you asked us to look at a document that I believe to be very anti-Semitic and very anti-Jewish. And I don't think we should be starting off a discussion with that document. And if that's the foundation for how you want to discuss it, I want to be clear about that in this motion.
To answer the inquiry from the gentleman, the motion is to discuss this at a future meeting.
The
As a
discussion
to-
of
as a topic.
Minneapolis,
No, sorry, apologies, that is out of order.
that's what I'm not clear about. Are we starting at Minneapolis? Because that document I found to be very
The motion
effective.
was to discuss this topic, Alderperson Keel. I'm sorry, Alderperson Matos, I will recognize you for the purpose of clarifying what your motion was.
Okay, thank you.
But I will also note that under no circumstances is anything being immediately moved to a voting item.
Yeah, no, like I said, what I sent sent around was a draft, a starting point from Minneapolis. The reason why the group even liked the concept of the Minneapolis one was because we felt like it wasn't being anti-Semitic or it wasn't targeting any specific group.
Alderperson, if you could just restrain your comments to the clarification of what the
Yeah,
proposed
sorry.
topic is.
So the proposed topic is to have a conversation around bringing forward a resolution from the city and on behalf of the ceasefire. That is a conversation. What exactly is in its merits? That's what I want like to discuss is like if we did decide to move forward with the resolution, what I'm sorry. Pretty much what I just want to discuss is the possibility of having a resolution. The verbiage and what we say can be discussed at that meeting. Once again, if I don't know if like we can just like I don't think we can talk about this within emails because of open meeting laws. But like if what your concerns that you have, David, I'm willing to listen to at the meeting. Once again, I can in between now, I can send supporting documents. I can send letters to the editors that were sent to me by folks who are peace activists. I within the meantime, I am able to, I can bring forward supporting documents.
Alderperson Nguyen.
I would move and I'm seeking Alderperson Matos's friendly to move that discussion to the March 13th working meeting.
I second that motion.
I motion to call the previous question.
Second.
Question. All those in favor of debate? Those opposed?
Rob, what are you asking?
Alderperson Kumar and called the previous question on the amendment to move the discussion of the conflict in Israel and Gaza to the March 13th Committee of the Whole meeting. That is the motion that was that was the question that was just called. So all those in favor of ending debate on that amendment? Those opposed? Alderperson Brown, you did not vote. I just need to record it as affirmative. You can't abstain. To end debate. Yes, affirmative or negative?
Affirmative.
Okay, thank you. So that carries 10-1. All right, now council will be voting on whether or not we should have this discussion on the March 13th meeting. 13th, that's what the vote right now is. All those in favor of debating this on the March 13th meeting? Those opposed? 7-4. Okay, thank you. That carries 7-4. I'm just checking my notes to make sure that I didn't miss anyone in the queue. Alderperson Kumar, but I do see you.
I just wanted to move to a new subject and
Please.
mention something that I would hope that we can prioritize. I would like to know the best form with which we can implement and enforce just cause employment legislation on the city level, what the channel for that would look like, and to what degree we can have input in it as council members.
Second.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a second.
I perhaps assume that this is a request to move this to our running list of items for the retreat. Thank you. Discussion on this. Alderperson Letterman.
I think this is very important. I think now that we've sort of gotten the green light from the Second Circuit on exploring this type of local legislation, I think it's extremely sort of timely. And having seen the sort of and studying the negative effects of at-will employment, I think it's very important that we have a substantive discussion about this at the policy retreat. So I would move that the previous question be ordered on this question.
Can I
Sorry. Alderperson Letterman has called the question. The question before council is to now determine whether we're going to end debate on this topic. All those in favor of ending debate? Those opposed? That carries 8-3. I guess straw poll over whether or not this is going to be added to the agenda for the retreat. Those in favor? Those opposed? And that carries 9-2. Further items for the retreat. Alderperson Shapiro.
I thought, are we taking items only for the retreat or for future agenda items?
Either.
Okay. It could be either.
Yes.
Okay. Well, my request is for either then as well.
Yeah. We only had, we in the hour we've been here, we only put one thing on the agenda retreat. So I was hoping, but that's
Okay.
an error on my part. It's technically either.
Well, I was hoping to get here in connection to Phoebe talking about Art House before, but one of the things that's been on my mind recently, and certainly my professional work impacts this, but I've seen a couple of different RFPs recently related to homelessness, with specifically targeting some certain areas in the Ithaca, and these RFPs coming through the Tompkins County Department of Whole Health appear to imply that at least on one occasion, they're getting opioid funds from the city to help fund that project. And I believe in the outreach project, they're getting some city funds either. Anyway, my request, we haven't talked about that. That's a really important local issue where there are a lot of people on the streets that are homeless right now. There are a lot of people that get brought indoors to places like Art House that aren't getting the supports that they need locally. This is all happening locally, and I just like to hear about a little bit more about like what we can do locally to help the homeless folks, or what we're doing already, perhaps.
So what Alderperson Shapiro is, if I may to interpret, requesting a future committee conversation around the city's comprehensive approach to serving the needs of our unhoused community.
Yes.
Thank you. Alderperson Fabrizio, are you seconding?
Well,
Are you seconding?
Yes, but
Okay,
not just the
that's
cities, also the county, the county. right?
That's not germane, right? Because we don't have control over what the county does.
Well, I would like to see an overview that helps educate us about what we are doing in the broad community.
Certainly, I think that's what the Alderperson just suggested.
I
Right.
would say that it seems like, and perhaps this would be fleshed out in the discussion, but it seems like we're contracting out the needs to the county from how I'm interpreting the recent RFPs. So there is, for me, wanting some understanding about what it is we're looking to do and what it is we're looking to contract out to the county to do.
Alderperson Fabrizio.
Right, and I think it's especially important in relation to Art House and all of the
Alderperson, I apologize. I am going to have to keep folks
Okay.
on topic for, do
Okay.
we want to add this as a topic or not?
I do want to add as a topic.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Anyone want to speak in the, we have 2 in the affirmative. Anyone opposing this? Alderperson Keel, you oppose?
I don't oppose. I want to call the question.
Well, I don't think okay, yes, sure. Is there a second for calling the question? So Alderperson Kumar, all those in favor of ending debate? Those opposed? Debate is ended. All those in favor of adding this to a future council agenda? Carries unanimously. Thank you. I had Alderperson Nguyen next.
I would like to add to our retreat discussions a revisiting of the comprehensive plan and our general housing strategy.
Is there a second? Seconded by Alderperson Keel. Does there need to be debate on this? All those in favor? Those, that carries unanimously. Thank you. Alderperson Brown.
I have two things. One, the topic I brought up earlier today, did we decide if that's gonna be, you said it's high priority, is that gonna be at our retreat?
What I had in my notes here was you saying that you wanted to have a conversation about quality of life and building habitability at the retreat. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
That's what my notes reflect.
Okay, so another thing I'd like to bring up at the retreat is how just a conversation about what is happening with reimagining public safety, and are we at a good place with it at the retreat?
Excellent question, Alderperson. I will note that we will both discuss public safety at the retreat, and just as edification of the council member who joined us, as well as anyone from the public who's watching now, we will also be getting a presentation on this at the March 13th meeting. Alderperson Fabrizio.
I would like a presentation on our fiscal state. I would like to hear from the controller, really where we stand and, basically a sort of analysis of where we are as a community before we go into any kind of discussions about budget priorities and that kind of thing. So I'd like to see a really comprehensive state of our fiscal state sort of presentation. And I think coupled with that, we should have a discussion or a presentation by the county assessor so they can talk about tax levies and tax rates. And so we can begin to understand better how to get a handle on what we're going to be dealing with before budget season gets way underway.
Is there a second on that? Seconded by Alderperson Keel. I will note that we do receive regular updates from the city controller, as well as we'll be having a comprehensive conversation about the city budget. And I think that would slot in quite nicely into that, and believe that it would be intimately tied to what our legislative retreat priorities are around.
When would that be scheduled for?
When would what?
The discussion.
I was just saying, I think it would naturally fold in with our retreat conversations.
Oh, with the retreat coming up. Okay.
Let me just turn around and make sure I'm not missing Alderperson St.
Yeah.
Perez. Alderperson St. Perez.
I have another topic. Do we need to finish this one first?
Would you hold that for a moment? Alderperson Matos. Alderperson Brown.
Yeah, I'm trying to clear up, are we gonna be talking about the county stuff too? Because I'm like, why? We have the county come and speak with us once a month, and if we have questions, we could ask them. So are we in, because she asked for county and city, and
This is back to the unhoused community.
Unhousing.
Oh, okay.
Is that correct, Alderperson Brown? Oh, back to the unhoused. Yes. No, I think
Oh, you mean the county assessor? County assessor.
Feeling is the county comes
To us, to
to us
special
once
topics.
once a month, and if we have questions, we can ask them at that time.
Oh, you, as in your
That's-
legislator pillar?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, I-
exactly.
yeah.
That's
Yes.
not
Oh.
the county assessor.
yeah,
The
Let's
assessor,
stay in order. Thank you, Alderperson. Because we are on the topic of presentation for, folding this into the retreat conversation.
Can I second that? That-
It has been seconded, but
It has
thank
been
you.
seconded?
I'm
Okay.
glad to have your support. Is there any, Alderperson Fabrizio, you have a question?
just can you clarify for us? I know that you say there's a monthly written report, but I'm talking about getting a proper, thorough presentation, preferably from the city controller who's been in this position for 30 or whatever, how many years before he totally departs, a sort of state of the city sort of presentation that would be at our special topics. I think it's important to have it at a meeting like that so that the general public
Can
can
you help me
follow it and get involved.
Can you help me understand how that would differ from the budget presentation?
Well, a budget presentation is like already done, is in my mind what I'm thinking. This is like before we begin to really set a framework for the budget and be thinking about, what are some of our objectives with regard to the budget for the coming season. So I guess I'm just confused about where that would fall in the timeline, a budget discussion. In my mind, I think what we've had in the past are budget discussions that happen in October and November, which is, as far as I'm concerned, it's like way too late. I want us to not keep doing what we've been doing to get a better budget and to get more input and just try to get more of a grip on our expenditures.
Absolutely. I'll remind council that the legislative priorities guide the city manager's development of that budget. And it is the prerogative of the city manager to prepare and propose a budget for council's review. It is not the prerogative of council to design the budget themselves.
I think that we should have a discussion about how the council can be involved in setting some of the framework and some of the priorities for a budget. That is completely within the scope of elected officials. And I think that our constituents are expecting us to do that. That's a fiscal responsibility that we have. We can't just hand that off to the city manager. I would like to have us have a discussion about what's important. What are our priorities? What are some of our objectives? Those are
Alderperson, I agree with you. That is why, for the first time in years, we are having a legislative retreat to set those priorities, to give clear direction to the administration on how to proceed.
Well, that is about 4 weeks, 5 weeks
Point of
into-
order.
into us.
Point of order.
There are other members waiting to be recognized.
Recognize Alderperson Letterman.
Perhaps I would suggest, as to be amenable to Alderperson Fabrizio, would be having a discussion at our legislative retreat about how to design a budget process that reflects council's sort of spending priorities.
Yes, I believe that is part of the perceived expected outcomes of said retreat. Further discussion on this. Alderperson Keel.
Move to call the question.
You may not. I apologize. The question's been called. Is there a second? Yes.
I move to call the question.
Is there a second? Second by Alderperson Shapiro. All those in favor of ending debate on this? Which we do not need to do. That passes unanimously. All those in favor of discussing our budget process in the retreat? That carries unanimously. Alderperson St. Perez, and then I will just remind council, we do have an executive session this evening.
I just want to add to the retreat agenda a discussion on intermunicipal collaboration and how we as a municipality can be a good neighbor and partner.
Seconded by Alderperson Letterman. Any discussion needed on this? Any objections to adding this? I ask for unanimous consent to add this to our discussion topics. Okay. The Alderperson suggested that we include in our conversation discussions of intermunicipal cooperation between the surrounding towns and other municipalities as well as the county.
I'm not in agreement unless they're in the room. I think I'm looking for maybe some time hosting something that we bring us all together in the room and not making decisions without voices in the room.
So there's an objection to unanimous consent. Discussion on this. Alderperson Keel.
I was just going to call a point of order. I think we just move into voting.
I'm sorry.
I was just going to call a point of order. I think we just move directly into
Okay.
voting.
All right, all those in favor of adding conversations about municipal cooperation to our retreat agenda? Those opposed? Alderperson Brown opposed? That carries 10-1. I'm just looking to see if there are alderpersons who have not been recognized. There are not. Alderperson Keel, Matos, and then several others.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just going to run through my topics really quickly, and I will specify which ones I think should be added to the legislative retreat as high-level items. I think we should have a discussion about zoning and city planning. I think that DPW and IFT Fire Tower should be rethought out. It's very expensive land, and it's currently taken up by municipal facility or city facilities. I think could be better put to use in other ways. I think we should have a substantive conversation on workforce development in the city and a comprehensive workforce development plan. And I also think that we should have a conversation about how we can make Ithaca more walkable as a city. I know I sent around a memo, and I apologize again. Thank you, Representative Haynes Sharp, for your email. I was under the impression that this was the meeting where we would be bringing up items for discussion if council wanted to pursue them as a thing, and that is why I sent that memo. And so with that, I will move into things that I think I would like to explore further. One is the Dark Skies Initiative in Ithaca. My memo outlines that and the possible benefits. I think it'd be great for the city, and it would be great for the environment. I'd like to also have a substantive conversation about infrastructure, even small infrastructure projects at some point. My reading of the charter says that all capital projects requests have to be submitted by April 15th. So I think this is actually a really important time to discuss these things. That's not that far away, as we all know. And I think there are a lot of small things we can do in Ithaca to really improve quality of life. And a lot of those I think will have to be talked about before we get to the formal budget process about whether we want as a council to move forward with them.
Is there a second to that? Yes. Okay, it's seconded. I'll just say, I do think I had hoped council would focus on top level strategic priorities to inform the actions of the administration. I do think I appreciate the zeal with, and this is not targeted to anything that the alderperson has brought forward in particular. I appreciate the zeal. I do think that council is erring into a strategic decision making when it comes to a unstructured set of future agenda items. Just looking at what we've discussed, it's hard for me personally to see how these align with macro priorities like Alderperson Brown had risen about quality of life and habitability for our residents. And I am just sharing that I will be opposing future votes to add things to the agenda until such time as we have a clear set of legislative priorities that can organize council around how we want to proceed. Other comments? Alderperson Fabrizio. We are discussing the alderperson's straw motion. Alderperson Nguyen.
I'm not opposed to having all of these things come up, but I kind of thought that the retreat would be, I thought that there'd be a priority ranking component to the retreat. So I actually like that Patrick gave us a list of things, and then at the retreat, we'd have some kind of voting system or ranking system to prioritize things. And so I'll vote for this, even though not every item on Patrick's list is something that I think should be the city's highest priority. In the hopes that that is something that we'll be setting during the retreat, because if we have 36 topics, we're gonna be there for 17 weeks.
Alderperson Brown?
I was just, I'm in hearing what Duxon is saying about, like, right now, this retreat is one day. And right now, what I've heard so far, just sitting here listed, are we being, like you said, overzealous, or are we gonna prioritize this list? And really think what are the things that we really wanna get done?
Thank you, Alderperson.
Do you want me to try to answer a little bit? Or no?
Yes, City Manager.
I just want to, again, try to clarify and make sure. So the retreat that we've been organizing is going to feel and look very similarly to a strategic planning retreat. So if you've ever participated in a strategic planning exercise, it'll be designed that at the end of the retreat, you'll have what we're going to call strategic themes that then will help you identify what are the important pieces. What might be helpful is in the memo that I sent to all of you last month, that's the work plan update on the 100-day plan. One section of that has about 8 links in it that give you examples of what other cities have set as their strategic themes. And I can resend that around again if people wanted to look at that. So the goal would be to end the day with the big buckets and then a starter list of maybe 3 to 4 priority items in each of those buckets. And it might also be helpful that when we end the day, we're also going to be looking at pulling a working group together to get the commissions reset. One of the issues that came up with the previous commissions was that, did we have the right topics? Did we have the right buckets? Were they called the right thing? So it also could give us an opportunity to then start reorganizing how we get public input and how we do some of that other work at the lower level with high community engagement options and possibilities by getting those commissions restarted. And it might be helpful if we mapped your themes to the commissions so that then we knew a lot of the work that the city was doing would have good engagement at every level as it moved through the legislative process. So that was what I thought we were going to be doing at the retreat. And I'm happy to resend around those examples of some strategic themes. Like if we were to use what we currently have as the commissions as potential, those large thematic topics. Mobility, accessibility, and transportation was one of the commissions. So Tiffany's suggestion of snow removal would be a great priority item that would get sorted under mobility, accessibility, and transportation. And if that was the first thing that you wanted staff to work on under that bucket, then that would give staff a really good, clear idea that that's what you wanted us to work on first, and then we would bring back to you. So that's when we're talking about priorities. What I was hoping to end the day with on the 3rd would be 5 or 6 themes and 3 or 4 things under each of those themes that you wanted to focus working on. Some of that might be more staff driven and some of that might be more council driven, but that's what we'll tease out at the retreat. Is that helpful?
Was that a thumbs up, Alderperson Letterman, or okay, Alderperson Keel?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just wanted to thank you, Representative Nguyen, for your comments. And I want to be very clear that I don't want to seem like I'm cosplaying government by doing all this. I really want to understand the legislative process and how we get from point A to point B, because I know that I have constituents who are talking to me. I know Representative Matos has constituents who are talking to her about items that our constituents would like to see happen. And it might be a small thing in terms of the city, but it means a lot to somebody. And I'd like to know how we can follow those things through. And I would just really appreciate a clear legislative process going forward about how things get done. And it might just be my understanding and I don't understand fully yet. But that would be very helpful for me. Thank you.
Alderperson Shapiro?
What do you usually do, Patrick? Can I call this to vote, to question? Can I
You
have
don't need to
discussion?
do that. Alderperson
we, like-
Fabrizio also had a hand up, but that would, no, okay. We can.
I want a new topic.
Yep.
That's what I was.
No. No, we do not. All those in favor of the package of topics as proposed? Those opposed? Yep, okay, that carries 10-1. Alderperson Fabrizio,
What's the timing when we need to enter executive session by? I know, I'm sure there are other topics, but I just want to make sure we do that in a timely fashion.
that's council's prerogative. Alderperson Fabrizio.
Thank you, City Manager, for confirming about reconstitution, reactivation of city committees, and that will be a discussion that was on my list. I think that's like super important. The other things I wanted to mention are really related also to fiscal health. So I don't know what the big umbrella is that you would put this under, but these are things I think we need to think about. There was mention of the Capital Projects Committee, and that came up at a meeting not so very long ago. And I think we need to, Alderperson Brown noted that there are currently no city council people on that committee. And I think that we need to have a discussion about the Capital Projects Committee. I would like to have a discussion about cost sharing, just to begin to talk about the community resources that the city is covering, either at 100% or nearly at 100%, that are community-wide resources. And I think, this is not gonna be like a quick sort of discussion or an easy discussion. And I realize that there are relationships that need to be built to move these kinds of discussions, but I think we need to start talking about it, and I would really encourage us to do that.
Could I request the alderperson restate their motion?
The umbrella.
Just the topic is good. I am personally struggling to summarize effectively for you.
I know it's all under fiscal, sort of fiscal health. It's about
Fiscal health, I think is great. I mean, I think that's
Okay.
right up there with Alderperson Brown's excellent contribution again about the quality of life and habitat.
Right.
I think that is an extremely appropriate
okay.
topic for our retreat.
Subcategories, right, would be under there. The overview of the budget, the way the Capital Projects Committee has been working and might work in the future, and potential cost sharing with the broader community.
Any objections to talking about the broader fiscal health questions in the retreat and stewardship? All right, seeing none, added by unanimous consent. Alderperson Shapiro.
I'd just like to ask quickly at the next possible voting meeting. I think if this was the PEDC meeting, we'd probably be pushing forward the short-term legislation that was already brought to the community for feedback. It's been vetted. It's time to vote on it, and I'd request that we vote on that as soon as possible.
Thank you, Alderperson. Strongly agree. That is coming forward to council as soon as staff is prepared to do so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alderperson Kumar, Alderperson Matos.
Sorry, first I have a point of information. I just want to make sure I'm doing this properly. Would now be, it be germane to move to executive session, or do we have to call the previous question first? Is
I
there a
don't
previous
believe there's
question
a
for
previous
commu-
question, so it would be germane.
Okay, then I would like to motion that we move to executive session at this time,
For the purpose of discussing a personnel
discussing a
matter.
personnel issue.
Yes, is there a second? Second by Alderperson Letterman. All those in favor of moving into executive session? Those opposed? That carries unanimously. For the public's edification, we will adjourn. There is no voting item coming out of this executive session. And Alderperson St. Perez, thank you for joining us. Feel better, and we will see you in early March.